Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us again for the Spy Shack podcast, where we'll be discussing Survivor Kaoh Rong, episode 10 and 11. And with me, as always, is my co-host Mark. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm very excited to talk about these two episodes. You can find me on Twitter at MarcoPolo310.
And as always, with us as well as Aaron. Aaron, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
And like I said, we are going to be going over two episodes since I was unable to be here for last week's episode due to celebrating my wife's birthday. So we'll take care of episode 10 and 11. And we'll talk first episode 10. I'm not here to make good friends. And just a general idea, Mark, what did you think of this episode?
It was really satisfying from beginning to end.
It was
especially towards the end.
Yeah, of course. And Aaron, what did you think?
Yes.
I thought it was a very, very good episode. I think at that point, that episode and the other two had been really good.
Yeah, I mean we said it before. This season has been a lot better than was advertised for us, for anybody, and I'm worried about what might happen at the end that would cause Jeff to say or not even try to hype this up. And I think we talked about it a little bit before, but so far I'm enjoying it. You guys just said you're enjoying it. There's nothing what we can say that diminishes that, at least now. So let's talk about that episode. And we start off the episode with Ty returning Jason's idol after the whole theatrics there at Tribal Council, where Deb gets booted out. And a lot of people were saying, well, it's Ty's idol. Ty has two idols now, so what would be his inclination to stay with Jason, right? And we see that pretty quickly within the minute into the episode, Jason is returned, gets his idol back from Ty, and I think Jason had already tweeted that was going to happen because it was a minute within the episode, so it didn't matter. So, what did you guys think of Ty giving that idol back, Mark?
Initially, when I saw it, I was like, "No, don't do it." And then I was like, "He might lose some trust if he didn't do it." So after a couple minutes, I didn't really blame him for doing that.
Yeah, it's weird to me because it's obvious that Ty didn't have to give that back. They not only did that showmanship in the tribal council where they're like, I am giving my idol to Ty, and then Ty was like, I am accepting the idol. And then in this episode, it was like, I am returning your idol back, Jason. And Jason was like, I am accepting the idol. So it's I know that they have to do that just so that the producers and the show has a clear line of what is it, as far as whose idols is, or who's holding the idol, or who's actually owner of the idol. I don't see why he gave it back, especially since Ty was going to go ahead and turn on him. I know he wasn't thinking of that at this time, but I wouldn't have given it back. That would have been my idol. What do you think of this, Aaron?
I mean, he sort of had to. I think they have some sort of. I think there's somewhere online Survivor Wiki, even though some of it is disputed as to how accurate it is. The rules of Survivor, what you can or you can't do out there. When an idol belongs to somebody, you can't steal it.
No.
You can't. So I'm guessing in some. I'm guessing in some way he sort of had to. Ty sort of had to give it back, or
Well, that's the thing. He didn't steal it. He was given it to him by Jason. Yeah. So that that idol is now Ty's. So he had no reason they had to give it back.
I mean, the only other example I can think of that comes to my mind is South Pacific. After Ozzy won the duel, after his horrendous acting performance, he asked Cochran back for the idol, and Cocker gave it back, which, you know,
Yeah, that same
it's all
thing.
part of the. I mean, would they be? I mean, if he didn't give it, I mean, with Ty, if he didn't give it back, then they would have been all after him.
Yeah, I think with Cochran, I don't know if he officially gave it to him the way that they showed it in this episode. I think he said, "Hold it for me," and I think that's the difference. Is if you're holding it for somebody, that's not officially your idol. If you're giving it to somebody, you have to actually officially say it to production or in front of the camera, so that there's no way for them to say he stole the idol. There's or he was just holding the idol or whatever. So I think that's what the difference is.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, I was just gonna say that I groaned a little bit when Ty was trying to give it back, and then I was like, he still needed the trust from the guys at that point in the game.
Yeah, that is true. Most likely they would have gone right at him, even though he was protected by two idols and the advantage. But you never know what's going to happen with Survivor. So let's go ahead.
Have you.
Yeah, Ventus. Yeah. Huh?
So, but an idol's already bad enough.
Oh, that's right. He gets the advantage in this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what we're about to talk about. We'll talk about the reward challenge, and it was a little bit different. This reward challenge, in that different people or different contestants were able to vie for different rewards. And what was the first one? The first one was it was Joe versus Julia, who were dueling to see who would get the letters from home. And it was who was it? Sydney.
It was Michelle and Jason for the food,
Also Scott.
Scott was there for the food, yes.
and Ty, Aubrey, and Sydney for the advantage.
Yes. So we get to see that Julia gets the food. I mean, sorry, the letters, and Michelle gets the food, and then of course Ty defeats Sydney and Aubrey for the advantage, which is the extra vote.
I mean, this challenge in particular, and I think it was the same thing with the obstacle that they added to the domino one. This was impossible for any of the big guys to win.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I believe that challenge was used in a quote-unquote duel in the first Redemption Island season, and Andrea won it against three guys.
yeah, we imagine being Scott having to keep your foot up, and just imagine how much your leg weighs and your foot weighs and your shoe weighs or whatever, just having to stay there. And I'm pretty sure whenever they use this challenge again, or just as far as the history, like you said with Andrea, it's always going to be either a woman or someone or a smaller male that wins this.
Yeah, because he probably weighs as much as the girls do.
Yeah.
So it's just, I find this, and I just find it hilarious that all these challenges, I'm just wondering if they think it through about, okay, who's gonna win this challenge? Okay, what are the rules? Let's lay out the rules, because sometimes challenges go, I guess some of the rules are just made up right there. The one example that's coming to my mind is the last challenge in Guatemala. Technically, they shouldn't have been leaning against the poles there.
Yeah.
And when they did that, then people have been complaining about it. I didn't really notice it until people started complaining about it. Like, well, how many people have a problem with this for? Okay, once it got to leaning on the poles, it just became, okay, who's the tallest?
Yeah.
And that person turned out to be Danny. So, I just find it funny that when you're anything balancing, whether it be a pot or or anything that's sort of fragile, you can almost guarantee that a small guy or a girl's going to win it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And because of winning this challenge, Ty gets the extra vote advantage that was first introduced in World Apart, and with Dan Foley winning that. Different from what Fishback got last season, in that the Fishback advantage was that he was able to steal a vote, and this is just adding a vote to the mix, right?
Yeah.
Right. And this season, we can make a whole. I don't know how many times we've mentioned it before, but I think we can keep like a whole collection jar for how many times we've mentioned that this season was filmed before Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming right after Worlds Apart. So it's that version of the extra vote. And so far, the extra vote in the last 2 seasons that it's been in, even though it was in the way it was played with Dan using it and then getting voted out immediately afterwards because Carolyn played her idol.
Mm-hmm.
All good entertainment, but you wasted your new little twist there.
Yep. And then we saw Fishback mess himself up by splitting the vote. So I wonder if this is going to continue, and Ty's going to play his advantage, and that's going to be the same episode that he goes home.
I think if it doesn't work for this season, then I don't think they would drop the concept totally. I think it just should. We're going to get to it later with the Super Idol, but I think it's a message coming from above that maybe they shouldn't be done.
Yeah, just stick to the basics. I know the idol's now part of the basics of Survivor now, so just stick to the basics. I know they're trying to change it up for the audience and so forth, but it's not working. A lot of the stuff that they tried to introduce now is not working. We see that Julia and Aubrey and Michelle both, because of Ty getting the advantage, now want to say that they're gonna vote against Ty. Julia proposes that to Aubrey and Michelle, and then of course Aubrey right away is suspicious of Julia, and I think she has a right to be suspicious, and instead goes to speak to Ty, and she's able to talk to his, I guess what would you say, his better side, and ask him why he's with his the allies he's with when they're not the same as he is. So we see Ty starting to reconsider his loyalties on that part, and we head to the immunity challenge. And this one, I feel a lot of people, especially on our Facebook group, were contesting as far as how or who should have won on this. And pretty much what it is that the castaways have to hold these discs on each side using their fingertips only, right?
Yeah.
I guess the palms of their hands too, but that's not that's only doing
Yeah, because
so much.
I know last week, I know a lot of people were saying, well, Jason was using his palms, he was cheating. But I do remember seeing, I think, Sydney and Aubrey using their palms too, and they weren't called on it. So, I mean, I guess it's up to production to decide what they're going to allow and for when they're going to allow it and so forth. Because I think Julia, she slipped and she grabbed onto the disc, and she took herself out of the game because she's like, oh, I messed up.
We mentioned about the challenge. The best part of it was was Aubrey doing her dance.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Her what did Jeff call it?
Yeah, my mom was walking out. She came walking out, going over to the kitchen to, I guess, put some plates away. And then once Jeff gave that commentary of his going, Aubrey trying some sort of 50s dance. And then my mom was just cackling. It just like, geez, does he ever shut up? No.
That's what my wife says. Whenever they're doing a challenge, my wife's like, shut up, Jeff.
I mean, and then he starts to. I mean, once it's Aubrey and Jason, and as far as I'm concerned, Probst wants Jason to win it. All right, so, I mean, he's starting to do his, you got to dig woman crap. And I would like to correct Probst in saying that it's a that. Okay, what dance in the 50s is that Aubrey was trying to do? I would say more or less she was a flapper girl.
20s.
Like the 1920s, 30s flapper girl.
That makes more sense.
What I did like at the end though is, it, even though Jason won and he could have been really, really annoying about it, he actually gave some props to Aubrey about it. And even within the challenge, I think Aubrey was like spitting and mocking Jason, and he just laughed it off. But it might have to do with him winning it and not losing. I think if he would have lost, he would have been a little bit more PO'd. And
I would see him lose, but unfortunately, we can't have everything.
So Jason wins this immunity challenge, and they go back to the camp, and he gives Scott his hidden immunity idol, saying he would need it that day. And of course, Ty's there to see that happen. And the plan was that Ty and Scott would join their idols in case it was needed to form the super idol. And we see how that plays out, right? Do you guys remember, before we go into Trouble Council, do you remember anything else going on in camp?
There were some funny things coming from Aubrey and Sydney. Sydney just being her sassy self, just anything that she says cracks me up. I can't think of. And I love how they
her face, Sydney's face.
Yeah, Sydney's face, and it's just comedy. Any look that she makes is comedy gold. But I think it was more so for last night's episode. But I think she was doing it in episode 10. I just love how they have to caption out or subtitle every single word that people say, and that if it's a cuss word, they got to put an underscore.
Yeah.
and that's what Sydney's subtitles are filled with, and that's just wonderful. And the other thing I wanted to note was Aubrey. I was cracking up when she said something about Jason and Scott, that they were like two guys on missed connections on Craigslist.
Yeah,
or something like that.
That was pretty funny.
That had me laughing. But
that's where she started to go make that move to go to talk to and really pretty much beg Ty to reconsider his alliance and really, I know we can work together, because Julia wants Aubrey and Sydney and all them to vote for Ty and blindside him, but Aubrey is looking at working with Ty instead of Julia.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to vote for Scott, and they recruit Sydney. He recruits Sydney. She recruits Joe, and they target Scott instead. And of course, Ty is the one that's able to come in and do that. So she goes and talks to him. And at Tribal Council, we see one of the more epic Tribal Councils. Maybe not the best one, but it's one of the more epic ones in the way that it ended. With Scott being eliminated by everybody, of course, except for Jason and Julia, and him looking over to Ty for the super idol, or for the other part of the idol, and Ty just saying no, he's not going to do it. And you just see Scott's face, wow. And of course, everybody on Facebook and so forth rejoiced.
Oh yeah, I was yelling at the TV. I don't know because when I was younger, I would get. And when I say younger, I would like 12, 13, 14, and then I just realized that it's just, why am I getting all worked up over this? It's a stupid show, a stupid game, and just whatnot. But there was much rejoicing. Yes,
Let
because I
me,
was afraid that he was going to let him use the super idol, but
yeah.
just that it
I
came
thought he
to,
was gonna do it. I thought he was gonna go ahead and give it to him.
just that it came to one word, no.
Yeah. Let me
And
ask you the.
mhm.
Let me ask you this, Mark.
Yep.
At that time, not taking into consideration what happened this week, but at the time that you saw that episode, did you agree with Ty's decision, or did you think he made a mistake?
Initially, I thought, fantastic. You do what you need to do. Uh, but then again, he had a solid, I at least fourth place finish with that group with Scott, Jason, and Julia. But then he's jumping over to the other side where he's also the bottom of
Yep.
like five people. So I mean, strategically, it wasn't really that good for him. But I mean, he has idols and advantages up the wazoo. So who cares?
Aaron, what did you think?
Of Ty's move, well,
Now, not necessarily what you if you thought it, how you felt as far as it was a good rate move. What did you think for him as far as did he make a
for him.
mistake? Did he was it a proper good move?
All right, well, less him for getting one of the douche nozzles out, but for himself, it might hurt him
Yeah.
because for some time, I think since San Juan del Sur or one of the later seasons post Heroes vs. Villains, I've always been trying to work out how many possible combinations or how many final three scenarios there can be in each one, and then I delete one once the person is voted off. And the way I have it, or the way I see it, Ty wins in any situation, in any final three, because the jury likes him. He's that likable. Now we're not. This is just based on what we're seeing on TV. We're
Yeah.
not out there.
Yeah.
But they really like him. But considering how he and Scott sort of made a bond, I don't know. It may come to hurt him. I don't know. He might have lost some jury votes.
Yeah, I feel that he made a mistake, and this is why he. I know he gets to keep the his idol, and the other idol is flush now. Well, first of all, let's say Scott should have played the idol on himself. Either way, he should have played the Scott. But the thing is that Ty betraying Jason and Scott, I feel Jason and Scott would have been able to take him at least to the final four, like Mark said, and it would. I think Ty could have won something to get into the finals, because I feel at that time they would have cut him. Right now, I feel they're gonna be more apt to try to cut him right now and try to do it in the next episode, so he actually goes out sooner than the fourth place. And I feel they're gonna really try to push that. It's up to him to see how he plays that advantage, how he plays his idol, and see if he can stay within the game. Top of that, I don't think Scott and Jason were lying when they said that they would take him. I feel that they were lying when they said they were going to take Julia instead of Ty. I really feel they would have stuck to their word to say that they're going to go with him. I feel what their play is that they don't think Ty is playing a proper game, and they feel that they're playing the better game. Unfortunately, Scott says Scott's home, so he did not play the better game. So right now we have Ty, Julia, Joe, Aubrey, Sydney, and Jason left coming into the next episode. Scott is now part of the jury. We'll see what happens with the rest of the season, which we're getting into the next episode already, episode 11. And That one's called "It's a Me Game, Not a We Game." And we see Ty talking to Jason about the choice that he did. What did you, Mark? What did you think of Jason's reaction to the what happened in Tribal Council?
He was trying very hard to keep calm, but you can see that he was brewing.
Yeah. Aaron, were you surprised that he didn't go on a rampage?
I mean, how could anybody want to go on a rampage on a guy as lovable as Ty? Even if he makes a mistake, I don't know. You want to? I mean, if he were like I don't know, a pet or a child, you'd probably put him in a timeout or whatever. But and then you give him whatever. I just don't see anybody wanting to go on a rampage because of some lovable baby and enemy's gardener. I don't know.
So
he seemed pretty pissed.
Yeah, he was.
Jason.
You can tell he was upset. He was pissed, but he held it together, and he was able to. I feel like he was able to show that he wasn't always just doing the sabotage or doing things around camp. I feel the show is giving us an edit for him that he will make it to the end, not necessarily win, but he might make it to the end. Because we keep seeing the show give us more information. I feel like I think even we saw Julia talking about him and his children and so forth. I think the show is trying to humanize him more, so that we won't hate him as much.
They have tried to humanize him up. The episode where Nick went,
Yeah.
he spent a good 5 minutes talking about him and his autistic kid.
Now, do you think this has something to do with the whole? I know Probst did not like Brian Heidick winning. He felt that he was really malicious in his season, or maybe not malicious, but very just like stone cold. Do you think that they're editing it maybe because he feels that the audience might feel the same way as towards a Brian Heidick?
I don't know how much of a say Probst gets in for the edit. I remember when Thailand was airing, I remember coming into the finale, I either wanted to see Brian or Helen win.
Yeah, I wanted Helen to win that one.
And then when it came down to it, just thought, okay, yeah, I didn't think Brian was unlikable, but time I watched it, I thought he was very, very annoying. And when Brian had to choose between who he should be in the final two with, I just thought, why do you vote out Jan?
Yeah.
And then my mom had to start explaining, she's too nice. And now that I rewatched Thailand, I love Clay. But it's just, I'm scared that I really don't want, please don't, because with all the winners, I find even though I may not be happy with who ends up winning, I try and find some way of liking them and accepting the fact that have been able to win.
So
but yeah, I feel like they have, even though I really don't see him getting in any final three scenario or any final two scenario, I really don't see him win. I think if they were in a final two with Scott, he might win there, but Scott's not there anymore.
Yeah. So let's go into the reward challenge. The reward challenge, it's 7 people left, and they're supposed to divide into pairs. And based on what Probst said, it says that they drew rocks, and everyone was divided. It was Ty and Joe, Sydney and Michelle, Aubrey and Julia. And Jason had to sit out, of course, without a way of winning the reward. And I kind of saw Ty and Joe and like, oh, there's no way they're gonna win. And I thought Sydney and Michelle would win without a problem. But that doesn't seem. Towards the end, it looks like Joe was actually gonna win it for Ty and Joe. who is it, Sydney or Michelle, that hits that last ring in that hook. And
Yeah.
I was telling my wife, this is one of those rewards that you want. Of course, you want to win. You want to go on and see what's going on. And this is the first reward that I realized in this season, or something where they actually take them away from camp to do the reward. And this is not the reward you want to go on. Of course, you want to eat and you want to do that, but it also takes you away from the game, and it allows somebody like Jason to try to pull something off. Now, luckily for Michelle, Sydney, and at that time Aubrey, Jason was left with people who would not work with him, right? So they got lucky there. What do you guys think? Would you want to get taken away from camp with only 7 people left?
Depend on the situation. I mean, depend on the cast.
I feel like there's been several different occasions where the people that got taken away from camp has the majority, but most of the time it's a minority leaving the camp. If it's a minority amount of people leaving the camp, I would say I would rather stay at the camp where it's the majority to make sure nothing happens there, especially if people who are not in your alliance are staying, just to make sure that they don't try to pull something out, pull a Hail Mary or something. That's just me. But I might be overthinking what happened there. What do you think, Mark?
Well,
it also depends on who you have an alliance with. If you have like a majority alliance, then you have nothing to worry about until you come back.
Well, we've seen in other seasons where the majority alliance feels like they don't have anything to worry, but it's when 3 people are gone that the other 4 or 5 people start talking, and that's when the trouble starts happening.
Well, the example I gave earlier, weeks ago, was with Pearl Islands, with Burton and John.
Yeah.
Going on that report. And the women pulled off a wonderful performance and got rid of Burton.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to before the reward challenge, because there's 2 little have been getting some. One of them in particular has been getting a lot of likes and whatnot. One thing I want to talk about. It's small, but I thought it was pretty funny. It just shows you how young Julia is. She just when they come back from camp, she's just obviously she's not happy because what happened. It didn't. Whatever she thought was going to happen didn't happen, and she goes, "Oh, there's this other alliance that I wasn't aware of," and I said, "Honey, sweetie babe, that's called a blind side." It's just she doesn't like it was another alliance I wasn't aware of.
Oh,
Just like I'm sure when she was watching that last night, she was wondering, "Geez, I'm an idiot."
Well, she also
And
said
then
that Michelle should be upset too because Michelle wasn't in on the vote, but Michelle didn't seem too distraught if she was or wasn't part of that vote.
Well, there's about a 5-year difference between them, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one that some of you may get or may not get, but coming from previously on Survivor, we have a great love for this. There was one scene where Jason and Ty were talking to each other, and I guess Mark the Chicken came up, not seen by the camera, and Ty's looking in the corner going, "Oh, hi, Mark." Immediately, the first thing that came to my mind was The Room. I don't know if any of you seen.
No.
yeah.
The cult classic. The scene is it's called The Citizen Kane of bad movies. There's been a lot written on it. A book written about the making of it, which was such a disaster. And it's made by this guy, directed and produced by this guy named Tommy Wiseau, and he is just not a very good actor. It is hilariously bad. And there's this one scene where Tommy Wiseau's main character. You can look it up online. He's being blamed for hitting his girlfriend, and he just gives this very unbelievable, not believable performance. Going, I did not hit her. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. It's sort of hard. You got to go on YouTube.
I actually think I saw somebody talking about that movie on YouTube, but I didn't know what they were talking about.
Oh, it is a wonderful. It is wonderfully bad. I think it's the Rocky Horror of its generation, because people are now, interacting with the movie, screening it at midnight, throwing spoons at the screen. It's just, and we joke about it a lot in POS, and I just immediately after the episode aired, I made an appreciation thread for Ty saying, "Oh, hi, Mark." That was one of the, and somebody made another. Mario Lanza made Mario Lanza made a comment because he loves The Room. He's a fan of The Room, and he said something about not only was there that reference, there was another reference to all the girls did a chicken dance at the reward, and that's another thing in the movie. So if you don't know what the movie, go watch the Nostalgia Critics review of it.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. I remember him talking about, but I don't remember anything about the movie itself.
Oh, it's just wonderful. It's just a wonderful movie. Those were the two things I wanted.
So let's move into the immunity challenge, and this is I like this immunity challenge. I don't think I would be able to complete it myself, and it was about 12 symbols or 15 symbols on that wheel that you had to go swim out to and memorize the number corresponding to the symbol, come back to your wheel and put in the numbers so that you can pretty much turn the wheel a certain amount of time to the left, turn to the right, until you get to a key that would open up your chest. Then you'd be able to unlock the puzzle pieces and unscramble the word. There's a lot of different things now in these challenges that I actually like. It's not just unlock your chest and your flag goes up, or unlock this or chop this and you win immunity. It's doing something and then something else, and I really like that component of the challenges as they've been doing recently on Survivor. What did you think of this challenge, Mark?
It was interesting, and I saw what they had to do at the end, and I was just like, why don't they just try random keys and then just swim laps if they don't get it? Because swimming out there and then spending time to memorize the symbols and stuff, that took a lot more time than we think. No,
as far as I know, they had to if they chose a key, they had to go back out there, like you said. But I don't think there's a certain amount of time you have to spend there, so you can get back to the platform, come back, try another key. It was Sydney and I believe Aubrey, and even Jason. They all went back but Jason tried the key, but they swam back without choosing the key. I would at least try the key to see if maybe I would have randomly picked the right key. Because now you're going back and you're spending more time, and you see Julia chooses a key. She thinks she has it. It doesn't open the chest. Michelle chooses to choose the key, and she opens it. And she says she memorized everything, all the symbols. I would not have been able to do that. I would have probably memorized 3 of them, and it'd probably been the wrong 3. What'd you think of that challenge, Aaron?
It kind of reminded me of the challenge from Token Chains that Steven won, in that there was a lot of remembering
the numbers
to do. And Probst asked him, "How did you remember all those?" And then Steven gives the geekiest, "I just made this, that, and the other." I can't translate it into English, but whatever he said, it just, it got you your win. Come
Yeah.
on over here.
I think he
Sir,
pretty
my
much did a mnemonic device, right? Pretty much.
I mean, you could do that with any. I mean, you could just. That's what I would do. I would just look
Yeah.
at. I would just look at the. Okay, okay, okay. Associate 11. Okay, like if there was a monkey and there were a 12 next to it, just think of the
12
movie.
monkeys. Yeah.
Yeah, just like anything like that. Just like think of like the most obscure thing, and then just try and remember it. But yeah, good for Michelle. And
Yeah.
the thing, it's her trying to write her numbers into the sand. Somebody noted that everybody else started doing it too,
After
probably
Probst.
because Probst, won't shut his mouth.
Like I'm saying, my wife just almost every single episode, she's like, oh my god, shut up, Jeff. She's like, is it like can you imagine being out there doing the challenges and then Jeff just won't stop talking? If we're if we're here watching it on TV and it's getting to us, you imagine being out there actually trying to compete.
But the thing that would be, I've always wondered what it would be like doing one of the challenges out there.
If you can
And
actually
the
hear
only
them.
difference would be, well, there would be no music for one thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There would be no music. It would just be. I don't know what else you would be hearing. I don't know if they're
I know it
trying
gets.
to.
I know it can get annoying sometimes, especially if you want your player to win the challenge and you just hear Probst talking. But it's a lot better than the first couple seasons where he didn't talk at all, and you just kind of had to like call it in your own head. So it is
Yeah,
a lot better.
I think it progressed
Yeah.
somewhere during season 3 where he was just sort of saying, Kelly Goldsmith,
Yeah.
welcome to the game. And he would be using the same zingers that he did in Rock and Roll Jeopardy, because he would say the same thing when somebody came out of the hole for Rock and Roll Jeopardy. He would, welcome to the game.
So
And it's just something that's grown. And the other thing I want to bring up that I found slightly funny, that after the reward, there was a little bit of camp light. There was a bit of camp scenes, and Julia and Jason were thinking about voting off Ty next.
and eating Mark.
And then Mark the chicken came over at the last shot before the commercial break. Mark the chicken, yeah, he's starting to talk to Ty, and Ty's, Mark, what's wrong? It's just, in that scene, Mark the chicken is Lassie. It's just like, what? There's trouble, boy?
But did you notice that they said she said and goes, I can't wait to eat him when Ty's gone, and Ty's right there, right next to them.
Yikes.
I did not notice.
Yeah, he was right there, right next to with Mark. He was with Mark, and Julia was like, I can't wait to eat him when Ty's gone. And Ty's right there. I'm like, oh my god, Julia, what are you doing? But yeah, we see that the alliance chooses to go after Julia because they feel that she is more of a challenge threat and a social threat together, and they see that Jason might not get votes at the end, so they decide to throw votes at Julia at Tribal Council. And we see Ty get a little nervous and ask Aubrey if he should play his idol, and she tells him, don't do it, but it's up to you. It's your gut feeling if you want to use it or not. And he doesn't use it, and Julia goes home. What did you think of that move? What did you think about targeting Julia, Aaron?
Well, I was pretty convinced after coming across one thing online that I immediately clicked out of. I have no idea who wins this season. I have no idea. But I thought I found out who placed 7th. And it wasn't the person that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be Ty. So it surprised me that Julia did go, but I think it was a good move on their part because she was already starting to get in with the other side with Scott and Jason, and
Yeah. Well,
he was
Mark.
showing her allegiance to that.
Yeah, Mark, what do you think about Sydney and Aubrey and not wanting to vote out Ty at this point? I mean, if you were Aubrey and you were Sydney, wouldn't you want to at least throw votes at Ty to get a idol flush?
I mean, there were already other people doing that, and so they just thought maybe they can use his they can use his stuff to their advantage, maybe going forward in the game.
But now, I mean, Ty looks like he's sitting pretty now. He's got an advantage and an idol to use in the next two episodes, which are the last episodes that he can use his advantage was at 5. So he seems like he's set up to go at least to the 5.
They always have the type blind sight in the back of their minds. It's just they didn't think that this was the point where they needed to do it.
I don't know. I don't think they did any kind of math. They don't know what the advantage is. They don't. But I mean, if you're Sydney, if you're Michelle, and if you're Aubrey, I would think at least try to get an idol out of there. I know he might still have his advantage, and that might take you out. But now you're getting to a point where he's got two things that can mess you up, and you still got Jason out there that might throw a wrench in your plan. The time might go back to Jason. You never know. And I just feel that if I was them, I would have made that play. Of course, I'm not in the game, and I'm out here, and I am what is it called Monday morning quarterbacking this. But that's the way that I think I would have been thinking at that time, and we'll see. Well, we are now down to 6 people left, and we have 5 contestants that have been working and playing this game, and we have Joe who's just kind of sitting there. And my brother just messaged me last night. And he's like, "I'm telling you, Joe is gonna float his way to the end." I'm like, "Well, he might float his way to the end, but I would be upset if Joe were to win." And I even put that as a comment on one of the Survivor, the Facebook group. Because what if
it was my post.
Yeah, I go, what if Probst doesn't like the season because Joe wins? Like, wouldn't that be a reason why not to? And then everyone's like, no, that can't happen. That can't happen. Like, you never know. You might have a real legitimate reason for not liking the season.
Or maybe, I'm thinking maybe there's a slight chance. Now, from what I know, I don't know if it's just one Survivor group or a couple Survivor groups. I think there are actual people that work on the show who are in the groups. So they're having their own little, hashtag spy shacks. So they may have, or they may read other comments online and know that we don't like Probst commenting on the season. Because in some ways, it's a spoiler.
Well, I think...
Especially,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Especially with Worlds Apart.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was saying, oh, it's a great season, great one. And it wasn't until about the 7th or... and they were at 10 or 9 people or 8. Whenever... So, the episode after Mike found the idol. I read about that the season would have one of the most likable winners, and you're just looking at it go week by week by week, and I'm thinking the audience is gonna like Mike because these other people, I don't think the audience knows enough about them or doesn't like them at all.
Yeah.
And even when they put him up for second chance and put him and Carolyn up there, that's indicating to me that one of the two of them is going to win. It's one of them's a decoy.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're running a little bit long on time here. Let's go ahead and get final thoughts here. Mark, is who's from what we have now? Who do you think is going to take it all the way?
Who I think is going to take it all the way? Right now, my money is on either Aubrey or Sydney. Let me mention really quickly. I really like the the little container that I gave Ty to hide the extra vote because that box Dan had was just too ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, who I think is going next? I mean, we briefly mentioned that Jason was thought of more as a GOAT for the finals, and so I don't think he's gonna go next. Probably the target's probably gonna be on either Sydney or Ty.
Aaron, who's going next, and who do you think is going to win it all?
Well, seeing how they're 5 strong, I mean, they did that whole hands in the center, and Sydney, much to my delight, said shake and bake or something like that. I'm thinking if that 5 sticks together, the ladies plus Ty and Joe. I mean, it just seems so easy that Jason would be the next to know, but judging by previews for next week, it doesn't seem that way at all. But I'm just going to go by the alliances from the last episode and say maybe Jason goes. As far as who I think would win it, judging by the edits, Aubrey's been getting a really, I mean, her edit from not doing so well in the challenges from now having the potential to win it all.
Yep.
It's a pretty good story arc there. So I would think, Aubrey, maybe even Sydney, even though she didn't really get any confessionals pre-merge. But I said before, of the final 3 scenarios, I see anyone in any scenario that Ty is in, I think he wins.
Yeah. And that's why I'm going to say Ty's not going to make it to the end. They're going to find a way to get him out. And I feel that it's going to continue where he is going to try to use his advantage, and the advantage is going to not work out. And I kind of feel Ty's going to go out this next episode. And I feel we're getting an Aubrey win. I think she's going to win it all. And we'll see. We'll see there. So, yeah, that was our thoughts on those episodes. We'll try to keep it on a weekly basis, so we don't have to do a double episode every time we record. But Aaron, any last words to anybody hearing?
Not much. I'm just doing things here and there. I have mentioned before that I am on YouTube, and that I do have a YouTube channel where I post videos. I would say once a month or every so often, or whenever I feel like it. And it just occurred to me I do have a video ready, up to go. And I've mentioned before that my channel has nothing to do with Survivor. It is about my other passion, which is classic rock, vinyl collecting and whatnot. So check that out. You can. I'm sure if you just search my name, Aaron Khan, you'll be able to find my channel. So.
And Mark, what are you up to?
You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter at MarcoPolo310. I know I haven't posted any videos in a couple of weeks. It's been hell with all the performances and shit. But I will try to get something going this weekend, so watch out for that.
All right, and myself, as always, you can find me on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as Twitter at Perspective, and find our videos. You can also find our videos on nerdfy.com. And thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys join us again for another episode of the Spy Shack podcast next week.